What's up, snake fans? Dave Palumbo here from Muscle Serpents Daily, and I have gotten one of my favorite carpet pythons of all time here. This is a beautiful female I produced in 17. The first carpet python I ever produced. There was one egg that survived. I told you the story about her. She didn't eat for 3.5 years on her own. I had to assist feed her, force feed her, and look how big she's gotten. After 3.5 years, she started eating again, and now she eats. She eats small rats now, so maybe next year she'll even breed. She is 4 years old already, and even though she doesn't lick it. But, you know, it's all about age, so if we can continue getting her eating all year, next year maybe she'll breed. This snake has never struck anyone. Matter of fact, I didn't even know she had a tongue for the first 3 years of her life until it finally started popping out of her mouth here. And once again, she's this total sweetheart, beautiful colored albino, that's 66% het anery, axanthic, excuse me. I think she's going to prove out. Now, the axanthic is in its het form in carpets is a little visual. And she looks very light for just a regular albino. So I think she probably will prove out. So she might produce some snow babies at some point, which would be the axanthic albino combination. So anyway, we're going to look at some carpet python pairings today. Talk about breeding. What's some of the things that we should look for when we breed carpets? What are some of the things we have to do? The cues that kind of kick them into gear, so to speak. Dropping the temps. I never take my heat spots away from these carpets ever throughout the year. I do drop the ambient room temperatures, however. I find that for some reason they get respiratory sometimes if you drop the hot spots. Other people tell me no, it never happens to them. I'm just paranoid. I know what happens to the ball python, so I just keep the hot spot. If they want to thermoregulate themselves, they'll go on the heat if they want it. If they don't want it, a lot of times when they're in breeding season, they never go on the heat. And I don't feed during the breeding season either, so when I'm breeding a pair. So they'll go 8 weeks without food, and they'll just lay wherever they want, basically. So, and it always works. I've gotten eggs, so it must work. So we're gonna take a look at some of the pairings I have this year, and hopefully this girl will be in the pairings next year. Right now we're just moving around some males and reorganizing the snake room. Stay tuned. All right, today we're going to talk about carpet python breeding, as I mentioned, and there are just certain things, and key triggers I find that really are important to get your carpets breeding. But you don't need to have all the triggers, and I think that's an important thing to take into consideration, meaning that you don't have to have light, you don't have to have heat, right, and temperature drops, you don't have to, everything doesn't have to be perfect. You need a couple of triggers, and if you get the key triggers that work for you, you're going to get successful breeding. I find that dropping ambient room temperatures seems to work perfectly. I don't drop hot spots, and I know other people, they drop their hot spot 10 degrees at night during, usually starting November or December, and they go 8 weeks, and they drop their temps, in the room, and the hot spot drop. I don't touch hot spots. I've had bad luck with respiratories whenever I do that. It's not everyone gets it, but it's always one snake that's the most important one. So I found that, I get just as good a luck when I don't drop hot spots. It's the ambient room temperature that works for me. Now, unfortunately, in my snake room, I have no windows because I'm in a metal building. When I build my next building, I'm going to have windows everywhere because I think natural light definitely helps because the seasonal changes I think are important. Obviously, the snakes can sense the barometric pressure, which is good too. That's why when you get rain or snow, we don't get snow here in Florida, but when you get bad weather, they know it and they seem to go into breeding behavior. Crazy, they like to breed during that. So they can tell that whether they see it or not. But light, I think, could be an important trigger, if you have that available. Because the seasons obviously get shorter. And I don't think it has anything to do with fluorescent light. I really believe that when you have light coming in from outside sunlight, that's a trigger, and they get into a cycle of breeding when they see that. I don't have that, so I really depend on the dropping of the temperatures for me. And I think they just know also seasons. I think these snakes, if you have them in your snake room for a number of years, they get accustomed. I have the same females will breed at the same time every year, and a lot of times they almost deliver to the day. No matter when I put them together, I could start them a month late, start them a month early. They always have, I have this one female that delivers every single year in March, okay? No matter what. And it's almost around the same date too. And that's because they get into a cycle of breeding, and that's what you want, because when that happens, you really don't need to give them that many triggers at all. Just put the male in, really, Once again, temperature, I use temperature drops and I stop feeding. So once my females are ready to go, and I get them up to weight, and my males are at a, right before I'm about to start breeding, the last month or two, I'll start feeding my males a little bit more too, so they have some energy. I don't want them to be like completely emaciated when the breeding season's over. So you got to feed them something, but you don't want fat males, obviously, but you also don't want skinny males when you first start breeding, because they're not going to make it. You're going to lose males. They're going to die on you, and we've all had that happen to us probably. So if your snakes are up to a good size and good weight and good health, I usually start November 1st. I'll start dropping temps. By the middle of November, like we are right now, I start putting the males in with the females and leaving them, and I stop feeding, okay? So usually what I do is, I'll stop feeding November 1st, end of October, let them get those. It takes 2 weeks for them to poop and digest, and then I drop my temps. But the good thing is I keep my hot spots, so even if there is something still in them, they can still digest if they have to. But what I find is they don't want to lay on they stay away from the hot spot. They actually stay in the cool part of the cage. And I'm dropping my temps from 80 degrees ambient, 81 degrees ambient to 75 or 6. And I do it gradually over a course of like 4 weeks. I keep knocking it down 1 degree on my thermostat, because here in Florida I have to run air conditioning because it's always too hot. And little by little the temperatures drop, and then over the course of 8 to 10 weeks, they're not eating, okay? They're in a cooler ambient temperature, and that's what stimulates breeding. I start seeing locks, and sometimes I don't see anything, because a lot of times they're under the hide box together. I don't know what they're doing in there, but it seems like they're doing the right thing, because I'm getting eggs, and that's really what I do. After 8 weeks, I'll start separating them a couple days a week to see if they want food, to try to feed them, just so they don't get run down. Because a lot of times once they're bred and the female's about to ovulate, a little bit of food can kind of kick in that ovulation, and sometimes they need that little bit of nourishment to push them over the edge. So 8 to 10 weeks of no food restriction, cool temperatures, then start slowly bringing up your temperatures again in February, and start giving them a little bit of food. Doesn't have to be big prey meals, and a lot of times that's all you need. And then in March you're going to have babies, or eggs I should say, and then obviously you pull those eggs in the incubator. But that seems to be my schedule. Does it work all the time? Absolutely not. No. Last year I've had some good luck, but that one, I'm going to show you one, carpet that just didn't go last year. I don't know why she didn't go. She just didn't go. Hopefully this year she just started eating, and you'll see. She's a beautiful snake too. And I hope she does go this year. And like I said, sometimes it's not your fault. It's the snakes do what they want to do, and that's the way it goes. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you hit them all, sometimes you don't. Very infrequently does every snake go every single year. That's just the way, that's just snake breeding for you, and you got to get used to that. All right, let's take a look at some of my breeding pairs and what we got lined up this year, and hopefully I can show you some exciting stuff. All right, there's my jungle zebra, jungle jag. So that's a jungle locality with the zebra morph, which is an incomplete dominant. The homozygous form is a patternless carpet python. And I think it looks pretty cool. Some people don't really like them. I think super zebras are really cool. The great thing about this snake is it's also het for granite, and I love the granite look on the carpet pythons. So this female, I've been waiting to try to breed her for a couple of years now, actually. Last year she did not go. I really thought she was finally old enough. I thought she was going to go. And then this year she really hasn't eaten. I thought there was something wrong with her, actually. And then all of a sudden she shed like 2 weeks ago, and she's been eating like ravenously. So you never know. So I'm pairing her up anyway, but what I'm doing is usually I don't feed my carpets when I pair them up. I'm taking out the males and I'm feeding her in between while I'm still pairing. Just taking the male out, giving him a break for 2 days a week, because I think she needs a little more. So she's big enough, but she really just went like a long period without eating this year. And so she's old enough for sure. I don't know if she resorbed last year and she just didn't go, or the male wasn't, ready. But I know the male's going to be ready this year. I know he's definitely ready. I showed him to you the other day. Let's take a look at him. He's in shed. That's why they're not even near each other right now. That's the my possible caramel. That's definitely zebra and granite for sure. So this little boy is going to be exquisite when he starts breeding. Look, he's really deep in shed. He almost looks axanthic. He's so deep in shed. I will leave him alone. And hopefully once he's done shedding, we'll see some breeding action here. All right, under here, I have my double het snow, or double het albino axanthic female. She's produced litters to me 3-4 years in a row. I have her now pairing with her son, the snow carpet that we produced here a number of years ago. They were paired last year. We produced 2 snows actually from this. One of those might actually go for sale once they go through that color change at a year old. I might make one available to the public. We're trying to repeat this breeding and hopefully produce some more snows, because a lot of people want snows, and I think now I can reliably produce them. If we can. This male was a little young last year, so I didn't get that many eggs. She's usually a pretty good 25 egg, female. So if we can get 25 eggs this year, I mean, we should be able to produce, I would think, at least 4 snows, and that would be nice, because I know a lot of people want to get into those. They're really beautiful, and ultimately, as I've shown you in the past, we are looking to make moonglows. I might have hit one this past year, I'm not sure. Still, they haven't gone through their color change yet, but from last year, but we'll see. This potentially very good breeding here. And there's my last breeding of the carpets. Well, I shouldn't say last, I have one more, but in the Snow Moonglow project here is my caramel double het snow to caramel double het snow, obviously with the idea of potentially producing a full moon moonglow. They call it a full moon. That's a super caramel albino axanthic. I haven't hit one yet. This is my first chance of doing it. Actually, I tried last year, but I think they weren't ready to go yet. We didn't get that such great odds. We hit a few super caramels on last year, but we didn't hit the full moon. We just didn't have enough eggs, really. We only had like about 5 or 6 good eggs. If we can get a clutch of like 25 eggs from this female, we might have a chance of hitting it. The odds are really high. It's a triple recessive, essentially. Even though caramel is incomplete dominant, to get the homozygous form, you're basically looking for 3 homozyguses from a triple het to triple het. So that's tough, because you only have 1 copy of the caramel here. Even though it's visual, we need it in the homozygous form. So hopefully that'll work out for us. I'm excited. If I hit a full moon, I'm going to be ecstatic beyond belief. I've been trying to hit the really solid white carpet python for so long now. I'm hoping maybe this will be the year. All right, here's my possible moonglow that I possibly produced last year. And this is a 2020. And this is what I believe to be a caramel albino axanthic. So 1 copy of caramel gene. And then you have your albino axanthic. So it's a caramel snow, essentially. We call that a moonglow. And if we hit 2 copies of caramel, they call that a full moon. And that usually is a solid white snake. This one's close. This one's got yellows in it still. You got to remember that the stock that was used to produce these double heads, the axanthic line, is a IJ, or Irian, or they call them Papuan, carpets, and they tend to be very yellow, like looking. So when you throw the axanthic gene into them, you removed most of the yellow, but you still have some yellow left. You can't get rid of all of it because it's such a yellow snake. Remember, the axanthic gene removes yellow, but not all of it. It can only remove so much. So that's why you get a snow that has a little bit of yellow in it. Now the caramel gene took away more of that yellow, but I think we're gonna need 2 copies of the caramel gene to really get rid of all that yellow in there. And I'm still not, I don't know necessarily if this is a caramel. This could just be a regular snow. I have snows, and the snows tend to have more yellow, and they tend to be much more vibrant. This looks like it's much more diffuse, which would imply that there's a caramel gene watering that down a little bit. So that's why I'm kind of under the impression that this is probably the moonglow. I have another litter mate to this one that I thought was the original moonglow, and it actually looks like it has more yellow in it. It looks more like a snow to me. So anyway, holding on for dear life here. All right, really nice. Just want to give you guys a final look at this. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's little carpet python breeding video. Look, pythons are pythons. A lot of times you don't, a lot of the things you do for ball pythons or what you do for carpet pythons, it's very similar. It's a very similar breeding process. They're not that hard to breed once you get the rhythm down. I had trouble, I gotta be honest with you, breeding carpets initially. I wasn't having any luck. And what I found was that they breed a little older. In other words, I thought they were gonna be exactly like ball pythons and that they would breed no problem. Just throw them together, the male's a year old, and that's not the case. The females need to be a lot older than you think, and the males need to be way older than I thought. I know people have bred males at a year old. I find that at 2 years old, they're way better. They're more mature, and they tend to be better breeders and get more viability for the clutches. So that's just what I learned. So I can't really, I can only give you my own experience. There's certainly exceptions to every rule. I've never had a female breed under 4 years old for me. It just doesn't happen. I don't know why. I've gotten mine up to size too. They were big enough. They just didn't seem mature. Or if they did, I had a very small clutch with a lot of slugs. Like, it seems like that 4-year mark is perfect for the females, and for the males, it's that 2-year mark at least. And when you get that, you got to just be more patient with them. That's all. And it's been, we know for a fact. I mean, Nick Mutton said it a million times: don't overfeed your carpets. They just don't do well. Ball pythons, you really can't overfeed because they just stop eating when they had enough. They're much smarter in that sense. I mean, they're frustrating to us as breeders because we want them to keep eating, but they'll just stop eating if they don't want to eat. Carpets will eat until they get fat, and then they don't want to breed. So keep that under advisement. All right, guys, if you like what you see, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, hit the like button. I'll see you back tomorrow morning.